IT firm, and you can simply go with this particular option and deploy Windows 8 like that. So let me first run through the last part, the zero-touch high-volume deployment. That is above 500 client computers, and the most experience level is needed in that. So you look at the chart, and I'll just explain one by one what exactly is a zero-touch high-volume deployment. So organizations that are using this strategy typically have more than 500 client computers and at least one location with more than 25 users. They have to have a managed network based on Windows Server. So Microsoft Deployment Toolkit is a Microsoft solution accelerator available at no cost for deploying Windows operating systems. Based on the experience of Microsoft employees, the customers, and the partners, MDT, the Microsoft Development Deployment Toolkit, contains thousands of lines of code. So that provides the deployment framework so that the customers can focus on their businesses. Not exactly on programming, but on their businesses. IT professional is not about programming. It's all about making things happen in an easier way and minimizing the cost. So, what is this particular strategy? First, can use the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit for light touch installation or zero touch installation deployment. The zero touch high volume deployment strategy is appropriate for the large organizations that have the necessary infrastructure. Right. So what exactly does this support? It supports streamlined deployment because installation is fully automated without any instruction. It has lower support costs because the configurations are consistent across all client computers. The maintenance is streamlined because the configuration manager handles application, device drivers, and updates. So what are the strategy requirements? You need to have Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, volume license VL Media provided by Microsoft, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, the Windows User State Migration Toolkit, Application Compatibility Toolkit, and Windows Automated Installation Kit, and the Configuration Manager and its prerequisites. So are there any limitations to this particular scenario? Yes. Most limitations are with the infrastructure and skill level required to implement it. A particular scenario runs through a basic command structure from an IT organization and goes to the IT professional and the team that has to deploy it. So this basically questions the experience level and the level of integration features that IT professional can provide when he or she deploys Windows 8. So the training is a must; it is required, and but overall, this particular limitation reduce your cost as this is a fully automated deployment, and one-time training structure can give you a very far beyond possibilities with this particular planning architecture. So what is exactly the deployment process? I'll quickly get to it. You have to review the available planning guidance for using the zero-touch high-volume deployment strategy, and you have to determine whether your organization really needs it. It doesn't mean that if you have 500 or more systems and you have to use this particular scenario. If your organization is divided into multiple sectors or multiple parts, you can go with some other deployment scenario. I'll be running those three in a minute. So, just a second, I'm just seeing the slide. Hope you are able to see this particular slide. Yeah. Now I'll go with a light touch with high volume deployment. So this particular scenario is for the medium-sized organization. This basically means that you have 200 to 500 client computers and the same thing, at least one location with more than 25 users. These actually have to have managed networks in distributed locations that are running Windows Server. MDT is also needed for this particular scenario. The whole of the setup is approximately the same, and but a very limited user interaction needed. So what are the limitations with this? The light touch high volume deployment strategy doesn't have any significant limitations for medium-sized organizations, but it does require limited interaction at the beginning of installation. As medium-sized organizations mature, however, they can easily the Microsoft deployment toolkit to provide a nearly zero-touch experience by doing nothing more than configuring a database and deploying the Windows deployment services home. Basically eliminating the user interaction with the deployment process by automating application installation and operating system configurations helps reduce the deployment and support costs. So the license agreement is the software assurance part that is needed, and IT Pro with deployment experience is recommended. It is a bit low from the zero-touch high-volume deployment, but significantly high if you are going with a 200 to 500 client computer organization. This and the high touch with standard image share most of the features, but it really goes on beyond that, because in the high touch with standard image deployment scenario, you can use a retail or software assurance, any of them. This particular can work with 100 to 200 client computers, but what you have to have is a significant level of experience, because retail media and software assurance both are very cost efficient, but software assurance goes a bit better with light touch high volume deployment. So it's basically what your organization wants and what exactly are you planning with it, because the deployment scenarios always depend on the number of systems that you are going to deploy Windows 8 on. So I have already finished the high touch with retail media, because it's the most basic deployment scenario. So what exactly after the deployment scenarios, we have some new scenarios. So Windows to Go I'll be discussing later. I have a dedicated slide to support that. I'll be quickly going through VDI, the virtual desktop infrastructure, and the client Hyper-V. So the Microsoft Virtual Desktop Infrastructure is basically an alternative to the delivery model that gives users secure access to the centrally managed desktop running in the data center. So VDI is powered by Remote Desktop Services, which is a server role in Windows Server 2012. It provides a single platform to deliver any type of hosted desktop, and Remote FX provides a consistently rich user experience. RDS enables organizations to choose the deployment method that works best for them. So session-based desktops, pooled virtual machines, and personal VMs. These are the three virtual desktop infrastructures that I'm going with. So the session-based desktops provide users access to applications, data, and shared desktop centralized in the data center from a web page through a SharePoint portal on a local desktop or even over the internet. So if you have a pooled virtual machine, pooled VMs basically give users access to high performance desktops from any connected device. VDI assigns VMs on demand from an existing pool to the particular user who is demanding it. When they log off, the VDI returns it to the pool for any other user who might need that particular pool virtual machine. On the other hand, the personal VMs give users access to a personal, high-performance desktop over which they have full administrative control. With all the three VDI deployment methods, user state virtualization maintains user data and settings across physical and virtual sessions. VDI empowers the enterprise and the centralized desktops and corporate data by using the System Center 2012. It can extend existing management tools and processes to the VDI environment. Partner technologies such as the Citrix Zen Desktop add value to VDI by offering additional scale and flexibility to enterprises. With the Citrix technology, users can actually access their Windows environment even from non-Windows devices. Here I move to the client Hyper-V. So on the PCs running Windows 8, client Hyper-V provides a robust virtual platform for developers and IT professionals. It supports a broad range of devices and leverages the driver ecosystem of Windows 8 to run on the broadest range of 64-bit PCs. Client Hyper-V provides a rich user experience, including multimedia, touch, and user support. Because the client Hyper-V is a core part of Windows 8, it leverages all the operating system security and management features. So what exactly is required for the client Hyper-V? It requires a 64-bit system. It requires 4 GB of RAM, and it requires the support for second-level address translation, SLAT. SLAT unloads from the processor the process of mapping physical memory to virtual memory. For intensive graphics, it provides significant performance improvement. It is required for Hyper-V on Windows 8 because most of the systems have extensive graphic capabilities these days. It's only required for Windows-based 8 server when enabling the remote effects or role services. So I'll move to Windows 8 SKUs. So there are 4 SKUs currently available. These are Windows 8, the Windows 8 Professional, Windows 8 Enterprise, and Windows RT. Of these, I'll be discussing the first 3. In the meanwhile, I'll suggest that you look at the chart that I've presented on the screen. It basically gives you a fair idea of what exactly is the difference between all the SKUs of Windows 8. This particular slide will be handed out to all of you in a PDF format so that you can go through it after the session is over. So, discussing about the Windows 8 SKUs. So, I'll start with Windows 8. Windows 8 is often the best choice. On the other hand, Windows 8 Professional Edition is the best choice for enthusiasts, the technology professionals, and businesses. It includes everything in Windows 8, plus a broader set of technologies such as encryption, virtualization, management, and domain connectivity. Windows 8, the standard edition of Windows 8, basically lacks some of the features such as Hyper-V, and so it is always recommended if you are IT professional that you go with Windows 8 Professional. So, the Windows 8 Enterprise Edition is available to the software assurance customers. It includes all the features in Windows 8 Professional, plus the management, deployment, security, virtualization, and mobility features that the IT organizations need to enable new computing scenarios. Windows 2 Go, Direct Access, Branch Cache, App Locker, VDI enhancements, and the Windows 8 app deployment are features unique to Windows 8 Enterprise. And the Windows 8 Enterprise is already pre-configured to support the app site loading as long as the PC is joined to the domain. Change the site so that you can have a look at the features. Okay, I have two questions. Uh, Windows 8 Professional and Windows 8 Enterprise. No, I don't mean that Windows 8 Professional and Windows 8 Enterprise don't have any features. I just don't have any references. What I'm saying is that Windows 8 Professional has more features than the standard edition of Windows 8, and Windows 8 Enterprise has all the features of Windows 8 Professional plus some other features like say the VDI enhancement, the app locker, Windows to Go, direct access, branch cache, and it can also be pre-configured to support app side loading. So there are a lot of other features in Windows 8 Enterprise that do not appear in Windows 8 Professional. There is a huge difference. But on the general IT professional level, there is hardly any difference if you're not deploying Windows 8. If you are deploying Windows 8, Windows 8 Enterprise is the way to go depending on your organization size. Basically, it goes with the last two deployment scenarios that I have discussed. The first two are basically out of the question than the Windows 8 Enterprise. I hope I have answered Dheeraj. If I have, you can let me know. If there is another question that you want to ask, please go ahead and post it. So I'll change the slide in the meanwhile to the next slide. So I'll come to application compatibility because most of us that are deploying Windows 8 are very much into knowing what exactly will happen to their current applications. So the overall compatibility of the Windows 8 with existing apps is very high. However, there are some of the compatibility issues that are possible because of the innovative new features, the tightened security, and the improved operating system reliability. So there will be some applications that might not support Windows 8, but compatibility to maximum of the applications are there. So the IT professionals which are planning for application compatibility should consider that Windows 8 is basically available for each of the IT professionals to go and particularly test it out in the particular scenario that they are working with. You can always have a local Windows 8 installation and check all your applications and the compatibility there before you deploy Windows 8. So what exactly is ACT 6.0 improvement? The ACT 6.0 is the most recent version of the toolkit that adds support for Windows 8. It basically has runtime analysis package. That is, it gathers the compatibility information. When you install it on the PC running Windows 8 for compatibility testing, it runs a real-time analysis of your particular system and then rules out the report telling you what particular systems will be supported by Windows 8 and what won't be. So are there any common compatibility problems? There are a common source of compatibility issues such as the user account control. In Windows 8, by default, all interactive users, including the members of administrative group, run as the standard users. UAC is a mechanism through which users can elevate applications to run as full administrator or run as a standard user. Applications that require administrative rights or which check for administrative privileges behave differently in Windows 8 even when they are run by an administrator. So if say that a particular scenario goes that you disable the user account control, Windows 8 applications will not run if you disable the UAC. There's another feature called Windows Resource Protection, WRP. So the Windows Resource Protection is designed to protect the system in a read-only state to increase system stability, predictability, and the reliability. This will particularly affect specific files and folders and registry keys. Updates to protected resources are restricted to the operating system and its trusted installer group. So this particular installer group includes the Windows services. This also helps to protect the components and applications that ship with the operating system from any impact of other applications and administrators. This can be issue of, say, for some of the custom installations that are not detected by the setup of Windows 8. If you have any questions, you can please use the Q&A panel and ask me. So here I come to deploying Windows 8. So what exactly is there when you go and deploy Windows 8? I'll be discussing three things. The Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit and all the features within that. I'll also run the options for deployment, and in the end, I'll discuss Windows to Go. So what exactly does Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit does? So the first thing that you have to notice, that you will notice, is that the Windows Automated Installation Kit, the Windows AIK, is now the part of Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit, the Windows ADK. So the Windows ADK also consolidates deployment tools that were once separate, that is the user state migration tool, and the Windows Automated Installation Kit are now available in a single package called the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit, the ADK. So deployment and imaging. The deployment and imaging components of the Windows ADK contains the tools that you need to customize, deploy, and service Windows images. These tools can be standalone, but they are recommended for use with the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit 2012 with Update 1 and the System Center Configuration Manager. The tools in the deployment and imaging component of the Windows ADK are required by both the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and the System Center Configuration Manager. So when I talk about deployment image servicing and management, it's known as DISM. DISM is basically a command line tool that mounts and services the Windows images before deployment. So you can use the DISM image management command to mount the image and then get information about it. The Windows image files, or you might already be knowing the WIM files or the virtual hard disk files, VHDs, are used, can be used to capture, split, and otherwise manage the other WLM files. So DISM now replaces the ImageX tool for the image management that was previously available for the deployment options. There is another tool in this kit that's known as the System Preparation Tool, SysPrep. SysPrep prepares a computer for delivery by configuring it to create a new computer security identifier, the SID. So when the computer is restarted, in addition, the SysPrep tool removes user-specific and computer-specific settings and data that must not be copied to a destination computer. After that comes the Windows System Image Manager, the Windows SIM. Windows SIM creates unattended Windows setup answer file. So you can create an answer file by using the information from a WIM file and a catalog file, the CLG file. Component settings are then added to appropriate configuration settings in the answer file. And you can also add packages to this particular image file, which you want to install during the Windows setup. In the end comes the Windows recovery environment, Windows RE. Windows RE is a recovery environment that can repair common causes of unbootable operating systems. The deployment and imaging tools include many other command line tools that assist in the deployment and imaging of Windows, boot configuration, and Windows pre-installation environment configuration. I'll be explaining the Windows pre-installation environment in the end of the session. So, okay, it's better. I take Windows pre-installation environment first, and then I'll move on to this particular session. So, the Windows pre-installation environment is basically a structured Windows. Structured Windows means that it is the minimal Windows operating system that includes very limited services, and it is basically built on the Windows 8 kernel. So you can use it to prepare a computer for Windows installation. You can copy disk images from a network file server, and basically you can use it to initiate Windows setup. Windows PE isn't actually designed to be the primary operating system on a computer. Instead, it's used as a standalone pre-installation environment and as an integral component of other setup and recovery technologies. These technologies include the Windows deployment services, Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, and the Windows recovery environment. So, what exactly? Okay. So currently, the Windows pre-install environment version 4.0 is used by Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012. The previous versions are to be used with Windows 7 and the previous operating system. So Windows PE is a modified version of this particular Windows operating system. And what exactly can you do with it? Let's start. Windows PE runs every time that you install Windows. The graphical tool that collects the configuration information during the setup phase runs within the Windows PE. All the IT departments can customize and extend Windows PE to meet their unique deployment needs. So, what exactly can Windows PE do for you? Let's say, okay, Windows PE was created to boot a computer, right? So, which basically can have a Windows operating system installed on it, or it might have a system that needs troubleshooting, or it might be needing recovery. So, if you need the troubleshooting part, it is very useful for both automatic and the manual troubleshooting. For example, if say Windows can start because of a corrupted system file, Windows PE can automatically start the Windows RE, the repair environment. You can also start Windows PE to use the built-in or customized troubleshooting and diagnostics tool. What about recovery? So you can use the Windows PE to build customized automated solutions for recovering and rebuilding computers that are running Windows 8. For example, let's say that your end users can boot their computers from a Windows PE recovery CD, a recovery DVD, or a USB drive. But they have accidentally corrupted a system or reformatted their hard drives for some reason. You can use the Windows PE setup to recover their Windows 8 systems to the current working state. The best part is that you can actually go ahead and customize the Windows PE installation media to suit the particular needs that your particular organization has. If anyone is looking for a question, please let me know. I'll now go to the user state migration tool. The user state migration tool migrates user profiles and files from existing Windows operating system to Windows 8. Let's say that you are upgrading from Windows 7 and there you will be using the USMP and that will help you to upgrade to Windows 8. There are three command line tools, the basic three command lines that are used within this tool. One of them is scanstate.exe. The scanstate.exe tool captures user state from the existing operating system, let's say from Windows Vista 7 or XP, or even from Windows 8 or standard to any other professional or enterprise version. You can store the captured user state or a removable drive or on a network shared folder. This particular scanstate.exe tool can also estimate the amount of disk storage required by the migrated user state. So that means that when you run this particular command line feature, there is a report generated and it tells you exactly what particular space will be needed, or are there any other particular state features that are needed for the other version of Windows that you want to install on it. Second is loadstate.exe. The loadstate.exe tool restores the captured user state from the location where it is stored by the scanstate.exe tool. The third is usmputils.exe, that is usmputils.exe. This tool performs functions related to user state migration, such as extracting files from the compressed migration store or removing hard links that cannot be otherwise deleted due to a sharing lock or something. So, USMP includes three XML files that configure the user state capture and restore process. These are namely MIG app.xml, MIG docs.xml, MIG user.xml. In addition, there is a concept file which specifies the configuration settings to exclude from the migration. You can also create a custom XML file to support specialized migration needs if you have any. So both the MDT 2012 and the configuration manager rely on the USMP to migrate user states. At the appropriate time during the deployment process, the scanstate.exe and the loadstate.exe command line automatically runs to migrate user state. You can also customize the process in both of these deployment tools. So now I move on to volume activation management tool. So the volume activation management tool, the VAMP, enables you to automate and centrally manage the volume and retail activation process of Windows. You can select some other Microsoft products as well, but I'll be sticking to Windows. The VAMP can manage volume activations using multiple activation keys, the MAKs, the MACs, or the KMS, the key management services, and is typically deployed in enterprise environments. The VAMP is a standard Microsoft management console that requires MMC 3.0. You can install it on any computer running Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows Server 2008 R2, or the Windows Server 2012. Windows Performance Toolkit, the WPT, contains performance monitoring tools that produce in-depth performance profiles of Windows operating systems and applications. It is a powerful recording tool that creates event tracing for Windows recording. You can run the WPT from the WPT user interface or from the command line. It provides a built-in profile that you can use to select the events that are to be recorded. Alternatively, you can author custom profiles in XML. WPT is a very powerful analysis tool that combines a flexible user interface with extensive graphing capabilities and the data tables that can be pivoted and that have full text search capability. So, the Windows Assessment Toolkit, it's another component in the Windows ADK. The Windows Assessment Toolkit helps to determine the quality of running operating system or a set of components with regard to performance, reliability, and the functionality. This toolkit includes the tools that you need to access a local computer, review the results, diagnose the problem, and determine how to make improvements. Assessments can be performed using the Windows Assistant console or the command line tool. With that goes the Windows Assessment Services. The final component of ADK is the Windows Assessment Services, and it is basically a test framework used to automate running assessments that measure performance, reliability, and functionality on multiple computers in a lab environment. It helps you eliminate fragmented, error-prone, extensive pre-deployment test processes and enables you to replace multiple steps and inconsistent tools with just one tool. So, Windows ASC, the Assessment Services, is a graphical user interface that interacts with Windows Assessment Services. This enables you to manage ratings and assets such as, let's say, which particular lab computers to test, which not to test, which images should be applied to those computers, and which particular assessments should be run on the test computer. You can use the Windows ASC to monitor the progress of a running job and to view and compare the results that were produced by. Additional benefits include the ability to import results into a central database for consolidated report generation. So what are the options for deployment? Microsoft Deployment Toolkit 2012 and the System Center Configuration Manager. I have already discussed Windows PE, so I'll be not discussing it again here. So the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit is one of the most popular toolkits built on top of Windows ADK. It's more of a deployment framework. MDT 2012 helps manage deployment content in preparation for deployment and then collects and applies deployment information to wizards at the time of deployment. MDT 2012 allows you to control the level of information required at the deployment time, and it also allows you to perform fully automated deployments that require no deployment information at the time of the deployment. It can also be used in conjunction with or by itself with the Configuration Manager. Although the Configuration Manager is very capable of deploying Windows 8 without the MDT, it is always recommended to use MDT and the Configuration Manager to extend both their capabilities and to use them as a deployment framework. MDT is basically like having a lot of deployment experts in the same room as you are, and which are writing custom code to support your Windows 8 deployment. So there are three actually type of deployments which are included with which can be actually done with MDT 2012, which is a light touch installation, LTI. LTI can perform partially and fully automated deployment for environments without the Configuration Manager. This allows you to determine the deployment configuration settings and what exactly you wish to provide prior to the deployment and at the time of deployment. Second is the user-driven installation, UDI. It can perform partially and fully automated deployments for environments with Configuration Manager. This also allows you to determine the type of deployment configuration settings that you wish to provide prior to deployment and at the time of deployment. The zero-touch installation performs fully automated deployments for environments with the Configuration Manager. This allows you to provide all configuration settings in advance and eliminate the need for any user or deployment technician at the time of deployment. So the deployment process and guidance provided by MDT 2012 are based on some of the best industry practices currently applied, and a lot of research is done to provide better support for upcoming configurations and upcoming deployment of different sort of mm, organization. So the System Center Configuration Manager 2012 is basically another deployment, another type of deployment that you can do. As I've discussed before, it is very much possible to deploy the Windows 8 in operating system with System Center Configuration Manager. But it is always recommended that you use both of these tools at the same time. So the original release of the System Center 2012 Configuration Manager adds support for user device affinity by allowing you to associate a user with the computer where the operating system is deployed. This functionality carries on with the Stack 1, but you can use the install application task sequence step to particularly install applications during operating system deployment. So the configuration manager with Stack 1 modifies the default task sequence to optimize the deployment of operating systems starting with Windows 7. Additionally, they offer support for computers in the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, the UEFI mode. Task sequence in Stack 1 include other enhancements for Windows 8. Configuration manager changes how you create prestige media. For example, you can specify applications or packages and driver packages to deploy with your operating system. You can add or remove content for the particular media. The configuration manager improves support for BitLocker drive encryption. Use the pre-provisioned BitLocker task sequence to encrypt the disk drive from within Windows CE and only encrypt the space used by the data for much faster encryption time. The Trusted Platform Module, TPM, and PIM is now available as one of the key management options for the current operating system in the Enable BitLocker task sequence step. This feature is exclusively available with the Service Pack 1. So the configuration manager with Service Pack 1 can provide you with Windows to Go. You can actually provision the Windows to Go drive much like you provision your other operating system deployments. The configuration manager provides a better monitoring and status for task sequence content and task sequence deployment. So with that, I'll go to Windows to Go. We are actually a bit short on time, so I'll jump to Windows to Go. So what exactly is the difference between Windows to Go and your general Windows installation? Windows to Go workspace operates just like any other installation of Windows with a few exceptions. You can read the exceptions, and I'll actually go and present my own. So Windows to Go is an enterprise feature of Windows 8 that enables the creation of a Windows to Go workspace that can be booted from a USB connected external drive on PCs that meets the Windows 7 or Windows 8 certification requirements, regardless of the operating system running on the PC. Windows to Go workspaces can use the same image enterprises used for the desktop, and they can be managed the same way. Windows to Go is not intended to replace desktop, laptop, or supplant any other mobile offerings. Rather, it provides support for use of resources for alternative workspace scenarios. There are some additional considerations that you should keep in mind before you start and use Windows to Go. I've already highlighted some of the differences between the typical Windows installation and Windows to Go. I changed the slide because you might have read the slide already. So some of the differences are the internet is offline. The trusted platform module is not used. Hibernation is disabled by default, but you can enable it. Windows recovery environment is not available. You cannot refresh or reset a Windows 2 Go workspace. Store is disabled. So what you can do with roaming with Windows 2 Go? I'll change the slide to support my content better. So firstly, I'll go with roaming with Windows 2 Go, then preparing for Windows 2 Go. In the meantime, you can always read the minimum recommended requirements for Windows 2 Go. So Windows 2 Go drives can be booted on multiple computers. When a Windows 2 Go workspace is first booted on a host computer, it will detect all the hardware on the computer and install any needed drivers. When the Windows 2 Go workspace is subsequently booted on that host computer, it will be able to identify the host computer and load the correct set of drivers automatically. So you can just go and plug your drive to any system, and once the first setup is complete, the first assessment of the system is complete, if you replug your drive to that particular system, you can start working on that system in no time. So how do you prepare for Windows 2 Go? Enterprises install Windows on a large group of computers, either by using the configuration manager or by using standard Windows deployment tools. So these same tools can be used to provision Windows to Go drive, just as you would if you were planning for provisioning a new class of any mobile PCs. So you can use the Windows Assistant and Deployment Kit to review deployment tools available. So let's see, what exactly are you deciding what you want to include in your Windows 2 Go image? So always consider that are there any drivers that you need to inject into the image, or how will data be stored and synchronized to appropriate location from the USB device? Or are there any applications that are incompatible with your Windows 2 Go roaming that should not be in the image? Or what should be the architecture of the image? What remote connectivity solution should be supported in the image if the Windows 2 Go is used outside the corporate network? What are the hardware considerations for Windows 2 Go? Let's say you're using a USB drive. The devices basically need to be optimized and certified for Windows 2 Go if you want to use them with Windows 2 Go roaming options. These certified flash drives are built for high random read-write speeds and support the thousands of random I/O operations per second that are required for running normal Windows very smoothly. This is particularly the minimum requirement that is needed for Windows 2 Go. For now, I'm going to change the slide and show you what exactly the compatible Windows 2 Go image architecture is. If your PC has a legacy BIOS and the architecture is 32-bit, you can only go with the 32-bit image. So that means that you have to use less RAM, less memory, less than 4 GB. If you have a legacy BIOS and your PC architecture is 64-bit, then you can use both 32 and 64-bit. But if you have a UEFI BIOS and it's a 32-bit host processor, you can only use a 32-bit Windows 2 Go image. Same goes with 64-bit. But in a UEFI mode, if your host processor is 64-bit, then you can only use 64-bit Windows 2 Go image, unlike the legacy BIOS. So this concludes my session for today, and I hope that this session was useful to you. I really thank you for taking the time and attending the session. If you have any questions regarding this session or regarding any Windows 8 problems or diagnostic solutions, troubleshooting, anything, you can log on to www.troubleshootwindows.com. You can also email me at ne@shantanukaushik.com or info@troubleshootwindows.com. This particular site will be handed to you as a PDF, which you can use for your reference. You are always welcome to contact me with any questions. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Tanmay.
Hi, thanks Shantanu. Thank you audience, everybody who has joined this session, and I hope this is equally important for all of you. Thanks Shantanu for joining the session and delivering a useful session to everybody. Now there are a couple of things that we need to do now. I will be running a poll to find out that how did you like the session so that we can improve. You can go to our website and check it out, which is the next session. We have a couple of sessions running now, since you know that this is the Virtual Tech Conference and we have the sessions till 10 p.m. IST. So you can go to the website and on the main page you can check out which is the next session coming up and you can join as per your interest. Feedback is very important, so let me run the poll and find out how did you like the session. Feel free to let us know how do you like the session, and we'll certainly move ahead. Also, if you want to know more about what is happening on Virtual Tech Conference, go to Twitter and follow the hashtag, which is #VTC, Virtual Tech Conference, #VTC, and you will get to know what are the other options, the other sessions going on. You can contact Shantanu anytime. He has shared his email. Let me also tell you his Twitter handle so that you can follow him and you can ask questions directly there or maybe email him. His Twitter handle is, let me see, his Twitter handle is @SHAN2129. You can follow him, ask questions on Twitter, or maybe you can put those questions on the email and discuss the questions with him. Thank you once again, everybody, and have a nice day ahead. Bye-bye.